I'm gonna start. I'm gonna ask another question
No, that's good. That's
that's a
good.
good one.
That's good. That's good. Trust me. Tight. Bismillah. So the first question is, whose job is it to cook? Tight. I would say, in the nature of our gathering here, the safest answer is the best cook in the house. If the man's a better cook, he should cook. If the woman's a better cook, she should cook. If they're equal, let them take turns. Next question.
I heard when I heard when a wife and a husband make it to Jannah, then the husband gets another wife. Is that true?
When a husband and wife go to Jannah, that a husband gets another wife, is that true? The simple summarized answer is yes. There's no doubt about that. Rather, based off of the mentioned ahadith, the standard for a man in Jannah is 2 additional wives. The standard. And that is not the hurul ain. Every man who enters Jannah will have 2 additional wives in Jannah. Yes. Yes. Hurul ain, the mujahideen, the shuhada, etc., etc., the ashabul yamin, the sabiqeen, etc. But the standard is 2. All right? That's the summarized answer. And obviously, polygyny or polygamy is a sensitive topic. Many people have different feelings and opinions and views, so on and so on and so forth. What's important is, we mentioned earlier in the khutbah, the narration of Salama radiallahu ta'ala anha in Sahih Muslim, in which her husband had died, Abu Salama, and the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam offered himself to be her new husband. And the messenger that he sent to Salama was Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a radiallahu ta'ala anhu warḍah. And she kindly turned him down. She refused him for 2 reasons. And she said, Inna li bintan wa ana ghayur. She says, I have a daughter and I'm very jealous. And the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, he sent back the middleman, the messenger, telling her, Amma ibnatuha fanadu Allah an yughniyaha anha wa nadu Allah an yadhhab bil ghayrah. He says, as far as her daughter, then we'll pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow her daughter not to need her as much for her husband, and we'll pray for Allah to take away the jealousy. So if you have a problem with this or a hard time with that, what are you doing about it? Something that's from Quran and Hadith that's difficult for you. What are you doing about it? Are you making dua for Allah to make it easy for you? For Allah to make you more submissive? For Allah to allow you to empty your cup and accept what it is? Or are you supporting your weaknesses, your insecurities, your discomforts, your lack of comfortability, so on and so forth, right? Wallahu ta'ala alam.
I was told that everything that belongs to the husband also belongs to the wife, but I also heard that whatever belongs to the wife only belongs to the wife, not the husband. Is that true?
This is a prime example of the incorrect feminism. Prime example. Everything that you have is mine. Everything that I have is only mine. Where's the justice and fairness of that? Your property is both our property. My property is what? You guys with me or not? Something's a bit off with that statement. What's important is that's wrong. The husband's property is not the wife's property. His wealth does not mean that it's absolutely her wealth as well. That's wrong. As far as the wife's property being her property, then that's right. And this also shows us the difference between the Islamic Sharia and between the different religions and people and cultures, in which a man's property was his and a woman's property was the man's, such as feudal Europe. Islam was never like that. A woman's property is hers And a man's property is his, and obviously he's the one who has to provide and spend and take care of and give and pay. But a woman's wealth is her wealth. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Can a woman ask for divorce if the intimacy is not satisfying?
Tayyib. Can a woman ask for divorce if the intimacy isn't satisfying? The answer is yes and no. The no part is that she shouldn't ask for divorce until the situation becomes hopeless. And what's meant by the situation being hopeless is that she tries to get the husband to improve, to enhance, to at least come to the basic starting point. He doesn't have to be excellent and great, but at least basic satisfaction. If the husband refuses, if the husband is physically incapable of doing that, that's a different story in which the woman can ask for a divorce. So let's say a husband, and let's be honest, let's be mature, right? We're all, inshallah, adults here, except for some young people. A very common problem that many men suffer from is incompetence, or impotence, erectile dysfunction disorder. Very common. And this thing here, when a man has a problem getting an erection, keeping an erection, a man has a problem climaxing prematurely, or a man, studies will tell you, a man has a problem that takes too long to reach climax. It's a big problem. And this is one of the most damaging, dilapidating thing for a man's ego. That's the centerpiece of a man's manhood. And that is why people, back in the day, they would make eunuchs. They would castrate a slave. What slave is going to run away or rebel or disrespect you and he's not even a real man? What you going to do if you run away? You going to start a family? You want to get married? You're stuck with me forever because you're half of a man. Let alone you're going to act feminine because it's a car with no what? No accelerator. No, you guys with me or not? You can't start up the car. It's a big problem, right? So therefore, for a woman to tell a man, with all due respect, honey, I love you, but something's wrong. Something isn't working. Something is really wrong. It's off. The first thing that a man is going to do is going to become defensive. What you trying to say? Something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with me. I was married before. Before I became a Muslim, I was with 100 women. I never had a complaint. That's the man's first response. So if a man is too prideful to accept that nasiha, and he refuses to get help, then a woman can ask for a divorce. Everybody clear on this? As far as the woman seeking a divorce before she seeks a solution, it could be a simple thing that's wrong. It could be something off. It could be something with him. It could be something with her. It could be something with both of them. Then that's a different story. The woman should not ask for a divorce. This is a very important question. It's a serious question. And we have explained in many classes and lectures is that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ would accept these types of questions and he would answer them transparently. He would openly talk about them because it's a part of life. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Salam. Please can you explain a little bit more in detail regarding the man's iddah?
Tayyib. The man is going to be in iddah, as we said, if, for argument's sake, he has 4 wives, he divorces one of them, and he wants to remarry. He cannot remarry, technically a 5th wife, but in actuality, it isn't a 5th wife. He cannot marry another woman until that woman, whether it's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th wife, has done her iddah. And that is because for approximately 3 months, if he made talaq on her, he still has to feed her, clothe her, shelter her, teach her, spend time with her, and she is not to leave the household until she's done her 3rd and final menstrual cycle. So when a man makes talaq in simple basic terms, the woman is still his, she's still his what? Wife. So he can't marry another one until she's done. So technically he's in the iddah. And if this isn't the case, then there's no such thing as an iddah for a man. A man does not menstruate. A man does not become pregnant. A man is not going to have the water or the fluid in his womb. For a woman to get divorced and then the next day she marries another man, that's a problem. When she becomes pregnant, who's the father of the child? Everyone understand this? Let alone the fact that when a man commits or performs talaq in default, listen carefully, guys, it's very important. It is presupposed al-muftarad أن المشاكل والنشوز من طرف من المرأة, is that the problems are with the woman. So a woman is supposed to have 3 months technically to get her act together. And she is supposed to tell him and show him, don't let me go. I'm a good woman. I'm beautiful. I'm this. I'm that. I'm fertile. I respect you. Don't let me go. Versus when a woman gets the khul'ah, the divorce is what? It's immediate. And that's because the problems in the khul'ah come from the man. For him now. So there are many reasons behind an iddah period, wisdoms. Those reasons don't necessarily pertain to the man. One of the wisdoms of the iddah is reconciliation. One of the wisdoms behind the iddah is to see if she's pregnant or not. One of the reasons behind the iddah is for her to, etc., etc., etc. That doesn't apply to the man, in theory, we said. So a man does not have an iddah unless it's that one scenario. For him now, wallahu ta'ala.
Our engagement / marriage ring is haram.
An engagement what?
Or marriage rings.
An engagement ring or marriage ring is it haram? My answer once again is yes and no. Possibly yes, possibly no. You buy your wife a ring as a gift, whether that be her mahar or a gift. Your wife or your fiance buys you a gift. I know you like rings, pinky rings. It's a gift for you. Where'd you get that ring from? MashaAllah, that joint is great. It's nice. My intendant brought it for me. You're engaged? MashaAllah. Or my wife bought it for me. MashaAllah. So if that's what you mean by a wedding ring or an engagement ring, then there's nothing wrong with that. As far as if you mean a specific style, worn on a specific hand, worn on a specific finger, in a specific way, blah, 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 with a specific meaning and symbol, da, 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 then of course, the least we can say about those rings is that they're problematic. أقل ما يقال فيها أنها مشكلة. أقل ما يقال. أقل. فضلا عن التحريم الصريح. فضلا عن الكراهة الصريحة لمشابهة المشركين والعقيدة التي يعني تصحب لبس هذه الأختان. Alright? The creed that is behind a band, a wedding band, and how it's supposed to connect to the heart, whether it comes from ancient Rome or ancient Greece or ancient Persia, etc., etc., etc. And obviously some people, they'll argue, and some people will say, well, we're not living in ancient Rome anymore. We're not living in ancient Greece anymore. Things are different. A man has a wedding ring, it's just a style. It's just, the tradition. One maybe you can make that argument. I would say a man should not wear a wedding band, period. Whether it's haram or whether it's disliked, let alone the fact that that doesn't go hand in hand with the Islamic teachings. Whereas a man is allowed to have 4 wives. How many ring fingers does he have? How many left hands does a man have? He can stack them. Allah Akbar. You get the point though, right? Naam? Tayyib. So that's what I'll say with regards to those rings. Wallahu a'lam. Next question.
What is the specific role of a daughter in Islam? Versus like women, because we only spoke about the role of a wife.
The specific role of a daughter. We mentioned briefly, maybe you guys didn't pick up, is that a daughter should be obedient to her parents as long as the parents are telling her to do the right thing. A daughter should be respectful at all times, even if she doesn't obey. And a daughter should give advice to her parents. If I have a son, my son says, Abby, this is wrong. Or Abby, you made 4 rak'ah or 5 rak'ah. It's easy for me to say, shut up. What do you know? I taught you everything. I changed your diaper. Wait, how you telling me? That's easy, right? Instead of me saying, you know what, son? You're right. I did make a mistake. Son, I did say something that was wrong. And for my son to tell me that I'm wrong, for my son to have enough courage, for my son to pay attention and concentrate that I made a mistake, I should be proud of that. That means that I raised a what? A good son. My daughter, who's strong enough to say, Abby, I love you, but such and such. Abby, that's not right. You should be happy that your daughter has guts. You shouldn't want to raise a coward. You shouldn't want to raise someone who's a yes man, a yes woman. Yes, yes, yes. Lie. You should be happy that you invested enough time and money and energy as someone who has a brain and a heart. So therefore, from the responsibilities of a daughter, the role of a daughter in Islam, obedience to the parents, bil ma'ruf, respect to the parents, mutlaqan. At-ta'a muqayyada wal-ihtiram, mutlaq. Obedience is conditional. Respect is what? Unconditional, exactly. Okay? Advice, ad-dinu nasiha. The Prophet ﷺ says, unsur akhaka, zaliman, or madluman. Help out your brother, wrong or being wronged. And the beauty of Islam and how deep Islam is as a religion is that even though you're my son or my father or my wife or my daughter, we're still brothers and sisters in Islam. أنت شيخي لكن حتى ما هذا هناك أخوة بيني وبينك. You're my teacher, but at the same time you're still my what? My brother. All right? So even your daughter is your brother in faith. So these are some of the roles of a daughter in Islam. And I would also say that the role of a daughter in Islam is to repay her debts. A man of honor always keeps his word and he always pays his debts. And no doubt you owe your parents. You owe them a lot. Whether you want to accept it or not. Whether your parents are perfect, whether you agree, but you owe them. And your parents, they made many sacrifices for your happiness. They made many sacrifices for you to have the opportunities that what? They only dreamt of. So it only makes sense for you to do the right thing. It only makes sense for you to make them proud. It only makes sense. They deserve that. Your mother deserves that. Wallahi. Your mother deserves to smile, to cry, tears of joy when you graduate, when you get this job, or when you go here. You owe that to your mom. And you owe that to your father. So these are all roles of a daughter in Islam. And also, I'll say, is that a daughter's role in Islam, no doubt about it, is to avoid dishonoring her family. Whatever that word means. Whether dishonoring means having an illegitimate child, whether dishonoring means leaving Islam, may Allah protect us from that, Allahumma ameen. Whatever it means to dishonor your parents, why? What did your parents do to you for you to cause them that grief? And you marrying someone outside of your race is not what I'm talking about. You seeking a career in Islam and they want you to seek a career in the dunya is what? It's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm speaking on. The Jahiliyyah parents. La. So these are some of the roles of a daughter in Al-Islam. Wallahu a'lam.
What advice can you give to Muslim sisters about wearing the hijab?
What advice would I give to Muslim sisters about wearing hijab? Number one, reminding yourself that hijab isn't an option. It's not a choice. You must. Allah has commanded you, the Messenger has commanded you. If you don't want to accept that, or 2022, Bronx, New York, no problem. The door to kufr is what? It's right there. You can go in and out as long as you want to. Or the door to disobedience is what? It's open. If you don't want to obey, that's fine. No one can force you. But if you want to do the right thing, wearing hijab isn't a choice. Number two, my second piece of advice is practice makes perfect. No one is born a scholar. No one is born an expert and a master coming out of the womb. So it's difficult to wear the hijab. It's hot. People make fun of me, my parents, my this, my that, etc. Practice makes perfect. You have to take steps. Do you think that everything that I know, everything that I'm doing, I did overnight? No, it takes progression. So start it, inshallah ta'ala. If you're weak, if you're scared, put on a scarf. Try one day out of the week, wear the niqab. Just try it out. Leave your house in the morning and wear the niqab. See how you feel. Right? Practice makes perfect. My third piece of advice is that there's strength in numbers. Don't ever forget that. So if you want to always wear your hijab, then you need to hang around the sisters who wear their hijab. If you want to wear the proper hijab, and not the flimsy Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse hijab. You all know what I'm talking about. If someone gets offended or mad, then what can I do? The hijab that is a hijab that's Islamic. Not just some bun or some scarf, some sash. This is tight, this big loose man's shirt with pants. A real hijab we're talking about. If you want to be strong, if you want to be excellent, then you have to hang around sisters who share your understanding. My next piece of advice is, if you're in a place in which not too many women wear hijab, or the proper hijab, or the only not so many women wearing niqab and gloves, etc., then it is your job to create the situation. You have to create the situation. Whether that's relocating, whether that's hanging out with sisters, going out with sisters, getting on the train, getting on the bus, driving the car, going somewhere in public, in which you have the other hijabis with you, in which you show and you represent, and you give coverage to those sisters who are scared and afraid because they see the strength in the numbers. And don't complain about the darkness if you're unwilling to light a candle. Never complain about darkness if you are too stingy or cheap or lazy to light a candle yourself. So how did New York City, how did Philadelphia, how did this city and that city become what it became? Except that someone had to be the brave martyr. Someone had to not care. Someone had to go through it. And then the next sister came. And then 3, 4, and the next thing you know, it became normally accepted. Wallahu ta'ala alam. And of course, my last piece of advice is never ever forget is that the game isn't fair. It's not a fair game. Don't be a fool thinking that the game is fair and the rules are fair. Don't think that. If you think that, then you're very foolish. Due to the fact that you wear hijab, the cards are stacked against you, whether you like it or not. You wear hijab, you're expected to be perfect. That's not fair. I'm a human being, but the ignorant people who don't wear hijab, they don't care about that. You have a beard. The moment you have that big, long beard, you're automatically expected to be a superhuman Muslim. You're not allowed to get angry. You're not allowed to get mad. You're not allowed to make a mistake. I'm a human being. No, you're not. You're a superhuman being because you have a beard. So if you have a hijab, whether you like it or not, you must realize you have to be a role model. And you have to represent. And there's certain things, not all, that would normally be halal, which aren't okay for you to do anymore. You can't do it no more. You can't be acting like that. You can't sit like that. You can't say that. You can't have fun like that in this place. Because you represent the Muslims. Do you know how many times I'm out in a place, something happens, something goes wrong, I'm going to lose my temper, and then I realize, look how I'm dressed. And if I punch this guy in his face, if I break his jaw, if I do this, if I do that, if I go in the glove compartment or whatever, right? What's the first thing that people want to say? The Muslims are violent, this, that, this, that, this, that. So I have to hold myself back, even if I don't have the proper intention, because of what I'm representing. You understand this? And the same applies to being clean and being neat and looking nice and dressing well. You represent the deen. And all the negative stereotypes that people have against hijab and misconceptions, you have to break those misconceptions. Sisters with hijab can look nice. They can be sharp. They can be clean. They can be this. They can be that. There's nothing wrong with being crispy wearing a hijab. Nothing wrong with it. Being fly with a throw on. Crispy, that's right. Crispy chicken, no? Wallahu alam. Sorry, chef? Crispy, yani? Wallahu alam.
Any advice for a sister who wants to get married but doesn't know where to start?
A sister who wants to get married but doesn't know where to start, don't start. You don't got to move. You don't have to start. Let the man find you, inshallah ta'ala. Let the man find you. That's what I said. Let the man find you. That's what we said. What's important is we give this advice all of the time to brothers. We say, stack them up, right? Stack your stats. Stack your stats. You want to get married? Okay. Are you seeking knowledge? Do you have a job? You have a car? You have an apartment, you have a house, you have a license, you have this, you have that. You're not rich, but what are your stats like? Because it's nothing but a matter of time before a brother is in the masjid looking for a what? A husband for his daughter. So if you got your stuff in line, it's nothing but a matter of time before someone discovers and searches for what? You. So that's my nasiha. You don't always have to look for a husband. Allow the husband to look for you and find you. But when he's looking and find, is this ready? Are you prepared to do this? Are you mature? Do you know this? You have no stats. So how are you going to get drafted in the league? You guys get the point? Yeah. All right? That's my humble advice. Wallahu alam. And that, just try it out. Take the Pepsi challenge. Try it out, inshallah. If you're not married and you want to get married, spend 6 months out of the year, 3 months just focusing on yourself and building up your resume. And by Allah's permission, I guarantee, before you know it, a brother's going to come knocking on your door. Because virtue spreads. People they're going to hear about Sister Fulan, she's such and such, she memorized Quran, yo. She's this, she in the masjid. Yo, whose daughter is that? You talking about the one that keep coming every day? She wear the full niqab. I heard she's single. Before you know it, what? No doubt about that. Wallahu a'lam.
Alright, at what point during labor do you have to stop praying? Example, once the water breaks and it continues to leak, can you pray through that?
Tayyib.
That's a good question.
As far as labor, then you're going to offer the salah until the blood flow comes. Understand? Different types of discharge or water, so on and so forth. It doesn't necessarily mean that a person cannot make the salah or they don't have to make the salah. As far as that which is called an-nifas, pre or post bleeding, then that's a different story. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
What do you think is a good What do you think is a good career for a Muslim woman living in America? And the second question is it allowed for a Muslim woman to wear a small hijab if the dress she's wearing is wide and doesn't reveal her body?
A good career for a sister in America. It depends on the sister. Once again, what's your lifestyle like? You wear a normal hijab, khimar, this, that, pants, long shirt, or you wear an abaya, a full abaya, gloves, niqab, etc., etc., etc. And it lies no doubt, due to the nature of what you're wearing, does have an effect on your career. If I wear a thobe and a kufi every single day out of the year, and I would say I'm going to apply to be a hotel manager at the front desk, such and such, in downtown Manhattan. Get the point? Could I be the manager? Could I be the person? But my dress, they're not going to accept that. You have to wear a suit and a tie here in this office. Bottom line. So therefore, you have to be mindful of that. Secondly is, I think that you should look at two things. What you like doing and what you're good at doing. What you're good at naturally and what you enjoy naturally. That should be the two guiding principles for what job or career you get. You like to teach, you like the physical activities in the gym, you like to run, you like to do this, you like to cook, you like to drive, you like to fly, you like to this, whatever it may be. I'm naturally good at swimming, and I love to be in the water like a fish. So it only makes sense for me to seek a professional career in teaching people, not fish, how to what? How to swim. But at the same time, if I wear a thobe and a beard, I'm not going to have the dreams and aspirations of being an Olympic swimmer. Everybody understand this? As far as wearing a small khimar, if your overgarment is large enough or big enough and it doesn't expose your body, blah, 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 blah. For argument's sake, if the hijab covers what's supposed to cover, it doesn't matter what's bigger or shorter or smaller or longer. What's important is covering. Proper covering, bottom line. And there are different styles of hijab. A head abaya is not like a two-piece khimar. Khimar and skirt. It's two different pieces, two different styles. So there's some styles of overgarments in which a sister doesn't wear a khimar covering her chest. And there are other styles of hijab in which the khimar has to drape down. So it depends on what style of hijab you're wearing. Wallahu ta'ala.
Do we have to be submissive?
Of course you have to be submissive. No doubt about that. No doubt. You have to be submissive at one point in time in your life. And if you refuse to be submissive to Allah, then you will be submissive to something else. If you're not submissive to Allah Azza wa Jal, you'll be submissive to men or women. You'll be submissive to the weather. You'll be submissive to old age, to sickness. Something is going to force you to slow down and obey. That's the nature of life. Wallahu ta'ala alam. And it only makes sense to be submissive to Allah and to be submissive to anyone that Allah tells us to be submissive to or when, instead of being victims of being submissive to our desires or money or lusts or temptations or material goods, so on and so forth. Right? Wallahu ta'ala alam. What did it say? They had the meme, the feminist, chauvinist meme. They had the guy, right? The man at home, he told his wife, he said, "Can you make me a coffee?" She says, "No, make it yourself." And then the next cartoon image, the woman's at work, and the boss says, "Can you make me a coffee?" She says, "Yes, sir." Point proven or not. I'm not going to be submissive to this man here, but one way or another in life, you're going to be what? Submissive to something. That's the point I'm trying to get to. That's the point I'm trying to
I think
make.
they're leaning more towards obeying the husband.
Her answer is what? Crystal clear. Allah told you to be submissive to certain people. All right? It's not about me obeying you. If it was up to me, I wouldn't give you a dime. I wouldn't spend on you. I would spend all the money on myself if it was up to me. I wouldn't provide for you. You provide for yourself. You pay the rent this month. Why should I give you anything? Why do I got to be kind to you? وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Right? Does the Quran not say that? Treat women honorably. Why should I treat you honorably? You're just a woman. There's a million other women in the world that look better than you, more beautiful than you. Why should I treat you honorably? Why not oppress you? Why not discard you, right? You guys get the mindset? Why do I have to listen to my husband? He's nothing but a man, da-da-da. First and foremost is, slow down. You have to obey your husband. You have to treat your wife honorably because of what? You guys get it? That's why. And if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for us obeying and following the rules, we would follow our desires. And the world will be in chaos. Men would disrespect women, women disrespect men. You guys with me or not? All right? So therefore, you're not, the point I'm trying to make is, right, playing the devil's advocate, I'm trying to make a point here. And that is, you're being submissive to your husband because of who he is, or because of, that's the bottom line. Wallahu a'lam.
Your advice to a woman who has no siblings and she wants to financially support her parents when she's married.
Tight. First and foremost is, make this clear to your potential husband. Whether it's a condition that you place, we can get married, but please do not stop me from working. Do you agree? When we get married, do not tell me that I have to quit my job. If he agrees, alhamdulillah. If he doesn't agree, you walk on, you move on. If he agrees and then he reneges, then you have the contract. So if you're the one providing for your parents and you're providing through money that you make and you earn, alhamdulillah, make sure that your job is halal, lawful, and make it clear to your potential husband that this is a binding condition. You accept or you don't. And I don't think that a husband who's reasonable is going to prevent a woman from providing for her parents that need her provision. No reasonable man is going to say no to that. Who would want someone's parents to suffer, right? Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Can women get anything they want in Jannah too?
Can women get anything that they want in Jannah too? This is something that many people misunderstand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly says is that the people will have in Jannah anything that their souls desire. Allah mentions that there are things in paradise which are hidden. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that Allah says, "I've prepared for my righteous servants that which no eye has seen, that which no ear has heard, and that which no human heart or mind has thought of." And there's ayah and hadith. But many people, they think that means that anything that I can think of and imagine is going to be. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly mentions the foods that you're going to eat. Allah mentions the clothes that you're going to wear. Allah talks about the wives, the husbands, the ages that you're going to have in Jannah. So no one can come along and say, you can get anything you want in paradise, so therefore I'm going to be 5 years old. It doesn't say that. That's a misconception. So there are certain things that are mentioned to us, and there are other things which what? Which aren't. And from the things that are mentioned to us of the rewards and the bounties and the pleasures of Jannah, in reality are nothing more than names. The honey in Jannah isn't like the honey of this world. The wine in Jannah isn't like the wine of this world. The silk in Jannah is nothing like the silk in this world. But the word silk is the same. So a person doesn't just say in paradise, I'm going to have wings, I'm going to fly, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be a superhero. First and foremost is you don't know if you're going to paradise or not. And that's Allah afiyah. What's the bet? You don't know if you're going to paradise. Number two, there are things which may be, you don't know, but you don't just say definitely what it is and what isn't going to be in Jannah. Be careful about what's saying that. All right, that's point number one. Point number two is, Allah Azza wa Jal he does not mention that the pleasure of the souls and the desire of the souls is specific to men. He doesn't say that. But at the same time, a woman cannot come along and say, in Jannah, I'm going to have 10 husbands. Everyone understand that? No one can come along and say that because Allah Azza wa Jalla clearly mentioned something. Wallahu a'lam.
Can a woman put in her contract that she doesn't want polygyny?
Can a woman put in a contract that she doesn't want polygyny? The scholars of Islam, they differ on this issue. Some say yes, some say no. Me personally, I follow the opinion that that is a shart batil. That's a false condition. And it is unlawful to place a condition that goes against kitab and sunnah. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
How do you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted your repentance?
How do you know Allah has accepted your repentance? From one aspect, you don't know. Your repentance being valid, you hope, you're optimistic, but for us to know decisively what Allah has or hasn't accepted, we don't have that power. But there are signs, and Allah Azza wa Jalla is kind. And from His kindness is that He gives us signs. So from the signs that your tawbah was strong and valid, and inshallah ta'ala accepted, is that you become a better person. If you were doing bad, you're at least doing good. If you were doing good, you're great. And from the signs that your tawbah was valid, is that you don't find sweetness in talking about or thinking about that sin. It isn't funny or pleasurable. It's not a pleasurable memory anymore. And the scholars of Islam, they make an example of a terminal illness, a chronic disease, or a very nasty car accident in which you were in a coma for 2-3 months. You couldn't move, you couldn't walk, you couldn't talk, you couldn't eat, you were unaware for so long of a time. The car accident was that bad, you were that drugged up, the surgery was that major. And then miraculously you were healed, you got better, you came out of the coma, your broken legs were fixed, your arms were fixed, so on and so on and so forth. You walk, you talk, alhamdulillah, you don't need a wheelchair, you don't need a walker, you finished your therapy. Every time you get in the car, chill goes up your spine or not. When you get to an intersection, when people are speeding, when you see someone texting on their phone driving, how do you feel? Do you laugh and joke about the coma? Yo, remember that time I was in a coma for 3 months, yo? Remember that time I almost died? Remember that time I was so sick? Remember that time the doctors had to remove this from my body? Or are you going to cry and be scared? And you're going to say, yo, I was this close to dying. I was so sick. I was in so much pain. Every time the thought comes to your mind, it causes you trauma. So that's sin. I was in the club. I was drinking. I was smoking. I had all of these women. I had all of this. I was doing all of this haram. I was running through women. It was crazy how I was living. Yo, that was crazy, man. Remember that back in the day? Versus, astaghfirullah, a'udhu billah, la hawla wa la quwwata billah. I made zina with all of those women. Astaghfirullah. I violated all those people. I stole all of that money. I ripped off all of those poor third world countries out of their wealth. Every time you think about the sin, you cry. And it makes you have severe regret. So if you find sweetness in the sin, if you reminisce on the sin, and you find it to be pleasurable, that is a sign that your tawbah was of no value. And if you're sad, if you tremble, if you cry, if you find it hard to believe that was decreed upon me, all of the evil that I did, and alhamdulillah, Allah saved me. I was this close to dying upon kufr. This close. That night when we got into the car accident, my 2 friends died. They were drunk. We were all high. I crawled out of the car in the ambulance and I made a vow never to smoke, never to drink again. And I made tawbah. That is a sign that your tawbah was valid and inshallah ta'ala accepted. Everybody got the point? So you're not supposed to have a good time with disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu a'lam.
Sheikh, do you think we should still continue since...
Khair, inshallah. We'll make this the last question, inshallah ta'ala.
How to approach a man that I like?
that I want to get married to?
Why you put me in this position?
It's a good question. That's the way we look into it.
طيب. How to approach a man that you like, a brother that you like, you want to marry. It's a simple answer. One way of answering the question is approach the brother and tell him you like him. It's literally that simple. With respect, with shyness, whether it be at the door of the masjid, Assalamu alaikum, I'm interested in marrying you. Assalamu alaikum, brother such and such, I want to marry you. Are you married? You give the brother your wakil's number. Simple. That's one way of looking at it. If he says yes, I'll think about it, or he says no, alhamdulillah. No harm, what?
No foul.
No foul. Simple. Why we complicate things? If you're too shy, or if you're too embarrassed, or he's too shy, send a messenger. Like we mentioned in the hadith. Send a messenger. That messenger could be your little brother, right? Your son, someone that knows the brother. Whatever the case, when you send them a message, sister such and such wants to marry you. Or you don't have to mention the sister's name. Assalamu alaikum. Listen, there's a sister that's interested in you. She says she wants to marry you. She thinks you guys are a good match. It's that simple. If you're too scared of getting rejected or whatever the case may be. But the last piece of advice that I would give you is one of my favorite proverbs of the past. One of my favorite wisdoms of the ancients. And that is, fortune favors the brave. Fortune, good fortune, likes brave people. The braver you are, the greater the risk you take, inshallah ta'ala. And you'll miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. How many people did things, went for things that they thought were unimaginable. He won't like me. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not young enough. I don't look good enough. I don't have enough knowledge. And you never know what the brother might say, right? And oftentimes, a brother may accept you, or a sister may accept your offering, not because you're the most handsome, or you got the most money, or you have the most knowledge, or you come from the best family, but just the fact that you impressed her with your boldness. She said, I like him. It's something about him. He wasn't scared. He wasn't afraid. He came right. He's, all right, sure. Show me what you got. Show me what you got. All right, you want to marry me? Show me what you got. So sometimes you have to take that chance. And you can't be scared and cowardly, right? Worrying and fearing about rejection or people going to make fun of you. Fortune favors the what? The brave. Don't ever forget that. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على